In my last video, we took a little dive into Candace Owens' space theory. And by theory, I am not talking about a scientific theory, because she doesn't believe in those.
That sign can't stop me, because I can't read!
Because to clarify, a scientific theory is a rigorously tested explanation, backed by mountains of evidence. Not something that you scream into your phone while panic scrolling TikToks at 3 AM at a Chick-fil-A parking lot. But anyway, now Candace has moved on from denying the cosmos to denying the very bones in the ground. Yup, our girl has declared that dinosaurs, you know, the things that I've built an entire career studying, are also fake. And homosexual.
These dino daddies want eggs of their own. They want a family.
And as a paleontologist, I felt my very soul being chainsawed by the fates, like someone had slapped a live, laugh, creationism sign right over my favorite fossil dinosaur trackway dig site. So today, we are gonna dig, pun intended, into her prehistoric levels of delusion. I also think it's worth mentioning that Candace is in the middle of her own bonus level scandal right now. Apparently, the orange turd himself, Donald Trump, recently called Candace personally to ask her to stop it, because he didn't want people knowing the truth that President Emmanuel Macron's wife, the president of France actually, apparently Macron's wife is trans, or like according to Candace Owens anyway. Which, you know, just isn't true, and even if it was, like, who cares? Not that facts matter in her universe, because as a friendly reminder, trans lives matter and trans people are valid. Honestly, the whole thing reads less like political commentary, and more like a self-cert fanfiction, where Candace thinks that she's Gossip Girl with security clearance. But honestly, I think that's a topic for another video. The girls are f***ing fighting, oh my god. Okay, where do I start? Daddy from the future here. I recorded this video way back in June, and I did not foresee what was about to happen, but I probably should have. So while Candace Owens might have won her celebrity deathmatch against Matt Walsh, the Macrons came in with the guillotine and finished the job. The French are about to behead another queen, let me tell you. So, yeah, the Macrons have formally filed a lawsuit against Candace Owens. She f***ed around and, you know, she's about to find out. And honestly, I hope she does, because, like, not that I care if, the First Lady of France is trans, because, like, that shouldn't matter. Candace has a massive, hateful audience. Regardless of who you are or how high up you are, like, that shit hurts, you know? And having that much venom from a crazy audience isn't good for anybody. Like, nobody deserves that. I don't have my usual bullet points or even a script. I'm just kind of talking off the cuff, and I think it's a little too early to make this its own video, because, like, we have no idea what's gonna happen. But it is worth mentioning, jumping, you know, back into this video and letting you know that, this happened, or is happening. So yeah, let's see how this plays out, and I might have to make another Candace Owens video, we'll see. But for now, let's get back to the dinosaurs.
It's interesting, the conspiracies that we've been talking about so far, there's a lot of incentive structures, like reasons that the government would want to push these narratives for their own benefit. But one that you talked about, and you haven't gone into it too much in depth, but you don't believe dinosaurs are real.
So this is a funny one. So this is one of the ones where I'm like, gut. I'm not kidding. This conversation happened, and it was so funny. I was just walking with Savannah, my manager, because we do like these little evening walks, and just looked up to her, and I was like, dinosaurs? That seems pretty fake and gay.
The cheese curds have traveled from her vagina into her brain, and she can't think.
We are one sentence in, and already we're in the Twilight Zone. Like, what the f***? First off, like, what does that even mean? I mean, if fossils are organizing pride parades, like, please, girl, like, tell me. Because I want to go. Is T-Rexy Mattel gonna be in RuPaul's Drag Race? Like, girl, like, if you know something I don't, like, tell me now. More seriously, fossils are physical, measurable evidence of prehistoric life across every continent. They've been studied using radiometric dating, stratigraphy, and comparative anatomy. And if you know anything about me, Daddy loves to compare anatomy. We know dinosaurs existed because their bones and dinosaur footprints like this little guy right here, 205 million years old, by the way. And aside from bones and footprints, we also have coprolites, which is actually just a term for fossil poop, which is actually so much more fascinating than it sounds, because we get to learn what they ate, what certain behaviors were, you know, yada yada. Even soft tissue impressions have been perfectly preserved in fossils, which is absolutely fascinating. There's also this really incredible fossilized mummified dinosaur that was like perfectly preserved, and you can find it at the Royal Tyrrell Museum in Alberta, Canada. If you get a chance, you absolutely have to go there. And all of this has been physically preserved in sedimentary rock layers dating back from 65 to 235 million years ago. So take that, Candace.
She's like, Savannah's from Tennessee. She's like, I've never believed in dinosaurs.
Ugh. Of course Savannah's from Tennessee. Also, that is not a scientific argument. That's just peer pressure from your equally unqualified friend. Belief is for Santa Claus or Queen Coke Francis. Dinosaurs are evidence-based. When I was trying to find this interview on Google, I forgot to use Candace Owens as a keyword, and Google's AI overview got really mad at me. It was like,
how dare you insinuate the dinosaurs are fake and gay when there's no evidence of them being fake at all, you dumbass. And please do not spread conspiracy theories. Okay, thanks.
And I was like, don't get mad at me, bitch. I'm like, that was Candace Owens, okay? Like, I'm sorry I didn't use her as a keyword. And then Google was like,
oh, okay, well, here's the interview.
But also, just because someone from Tennessee hasn't studied paleontology doesn't mean hundreds of millions of years of the fossil record disappears. That's like saying I've never seen a platypus, so I don't believe in Australia. And we know Australia is real because we've all seen Bluey and her low-key sexy dad. Look, I'm not a furry, but I would absolutely f that dog dad. Flashback. I'm not a furry, but I am furry adjacent, okay?
Okay.
Sure, Jan.
What on earth? I'm like, it's funny because people will literally say they don't believe in God, but then tell them like dinosaurs aren't real and they fall apart. Like, I'm like, okay, so they're just roaming the planet.
First of all, Candace, which god are you talking about? Anthropologists estimate that at least 18,000 different gods, goddesses, and various animals and even objects have been worshipped by humans since our species first appeared like 200,000 years ago. Kind of like that 3-year-old on the subway who worships his iPad. We've all seen him. I personally worship the golden goddesses themselves. Din, Nehru, Faror, Hylia to some certain extent. I am all for the Triforce supremacy. One is called faith, the other is testable, reproducible evidence. Science isn't here to replace religion. Paleontology is not atheism in a lab coat, because we don't really wear lab coats out on the field. I usually am just completely shirtless, because it'd be hot out there. And dinosaurs are not in competition with God, okay? Because, like, first of all, there's no competition. Like, we know dinosaurs exist. In fact, many scientists are actually religious, and I know quite a few of them. A lot of my fellow colleagues who are religious, they actually believe that, like us, dinosaurs were created by God. I frankly don't understand the logic, however, I am not gonna knock it, because it doesn't really harm anybody at the end of the day. You know, especially if they're not using their religion to suppress others, to oppress others, or, you know, to push pseudoscience. There are even Christian paleontologists who fully accept evolution and the concept of deep time. I mean, like, they can't not, otherwise they wouldn't be paleontologists, but I digress. Science and faith can absolutely coexist, you know, unless you are using your faith to deny scientific fact. Unless you're Scottish paleontologist Hugh Miller, who committed on a livery when his paleontological discoveries started to challenge his devout Christian belief system. True story, by the way, look it up. He lived in Cromarty, Scotland, where I've spent a good deal of time back in 2016 when I was studying the same rocks. I've been to his house, by the way, and I've also fossil hunted on the same hunting grounds as his that ultimately led to his demise.
because I got into and very much subscribe and believe and know to be true that there is a Christ conspiracy that's happening right now, which is the intentional removal of Christ because they want people not to believe in God, but instead to believe in humans.
Evolution is not a plot device to replace God with Bill Nye and a Pope hat. It's a scientific explanation of how life changes over time. Based on things like genetics, fossil evidence, comparative anatomy, which we already know Daddy loves, and embryology, not some atheist group chat trying to cancel Jesus. Charles Darwin published On the Origin of Species in 1859, and since then we found mountains of supporting evidence, such as transitional fossils like Tiktaalik or Archaeopteryx. The OG trans icons, by the way. And also DNA showing that we share genes with everything from apes to zebras or that frickin' blueberry that you ate today.
She's very blue, like a blueberry.
Or the fact that we all have bones in our hands that matches a bat's wing or a whale's flipper. You know, like all those little things that for any normal person would all add up, but I don't know, your tiny little brain just can't handle all that information, I guess. And I know that might be kind of mean, and I'm sorry if it is, but like, I don't know, this dumb bitch is actually just contributing to the dumbification of America, and I cannot stand it. Evolution doesn't disprove God, and this takes a lot for me to say, considering I don't actually believe in a god. Flashback. I personally worship the golden goddesses themselves, Din, Nehru, Farur.
It was all a lie. Guys, it was all a lie. She lied.
It just explains how life developed. Even the Vatican accepts it, why can't you? Honestly, if you told me when I was a small, little Catholic child, an altar boy, I don't think I would have believed you that the Vatican would become increasingly woke in my lifetime. Let's hope they continue down that path, though.
Well, that is what evolutionary theory was about. Because rather than making human beings believe that they had a creator, there was no concept of a dinosaur until 1850. That's very recent, right? That's the first time they were like, we actually think that there were these reptiles that are roaming the planet, and then within that same decade, they were like, dinosaur bones! And then they started finding them everywhere. I'm like, okay, so nobody found this, and then like
Really?
suddenly there's entire museums and...
Let's fix the timeline together, Candace. The term dinosaur was coined in 1842 by Sir Richard Owen, but dinosaur bones were found and misidentified long before that, bitch. Ancient Chinese texts actually describe dragon bones, which we now know were actually fossils, and unfortunately not the American dragon Jake Long. Also in Europe, large fossilized bones were found in the 1600s and even the 1700s, and often interpreted as giants or mythological creatures. Something people like L.A. Marzulli still cling to.
Your offspring will be at war with the offspring of the woman. The seed of the woman, the proto-evangelion, the Messiah, will crush your head. So now we're all of a sudden, we find ourselves in the deep end of the...
Also, actually, fun fact, did you know that curio cabinet that you have in your grandmother's kitchen, you know, the one where she has like those creepy porcelain dolls staring deep into your soul? Well, you have fossils to thank for that, but more specifically, the old English men and women who used to find fossils along the Jurassic coast of England. You specifically have to thank them for those curio cabinets, and you might be asking me why. Well, because the English used to find these little things along the beach that they called curiosities. We now know that those curiosities were actually fossils, and they would put those curiosities into their little curiosity cabinets. The more you know.
Kim Kardashian had...
Actually, did you know that if you go to the British Museum, you can actually see the fossil collection or the curiosity collection of King George III? And I can proudly say that my fossil collection here at my own home is much more vast than that of an English king's. How cool is that? How many people can actually say that? By the way, if you want to help support the channel and unlock some behind-the-scenes fossil hunting content like photos and videos of me in action, consider becoming a member on Ko-Fi or even making a one-time donation. You'll also get an invite to my private Discord. And hey, one really cool thing about fossil hunting that I just absolutely have to share is that you never know what you're gonna uncover in between the layers of rock.
Kim Kardashian!
And then, when geology and paleontology formalized in the 19th century, we developed the tools to interpret fossils correctly, which is why fossil discoveries surged during the time. Not because they f***ing spawned in like a Pokemon in Pokemon Go. Say hello to my little dog Javier and my shiny Cranidos cranberry, by the way.
In China, they have actually been caught manufacturing dinosaur bones many times over, and it is the case that dinosaur bones, for whatever reason, are always just found by the paleontologists. Like, it's not like you and me walking outside. I'm like, hey, a dinosaur bone.
Okay, I actually have kind of a few issues with this, and I'm gonna go over it as nicely as I possibly can. But probably not too nicely, because this is like one of the dumbest takes I have ever heard in my life. Obviously, there's been some cases of fossil forgery, usually from fossil dealers looking to make an easy buck. That's called fraud, not scientific consensus. And actually, it's become a huge problem over the last few decades in the fossil trade, specifically since the rise of social media. And this is why I'm personally very skeptical of buying or trading for fossils within Morocco or China, because that's where a lot of the fossil forgeries are being manufactured. Those fakes are almost always exposed by scientists, not hidden. It's kind of like saying that paintings are fake and gay because a few people forged a Picasso once. Nobody throws away the Metropolitan Museum of Art just because of one scammer on Etsy. And as for the whole, like, only paleontologists find fossils, girl, like, absolutely false. And this was the one part of the interview that actually made me want to throw my rock hammer at the screen a little bit. If you're gonna try to spread misinformation, at least try Googling first, like a functional adult. In fact, many fossils are found every day by everyday people. People with more curiosity and critical thinking skills than Candace Owens. For instance, picture it. North Dakota, the year 2000. 13-year-old named Tyler Lyson discovered a beautifully preserved Edmontosaurus. And I wanted to smack the shit out of him, because how dare he make such a discovery before I did, and we're roughly the same age. Actually, I'm a little bit older, so like that, obviously he had to be smacked. Or back in 2020, a family hiking in Utah found a dinosaur trackway that dated back to the Jurassic period. Kinda similar to the dinosaur footprints that I study in the Connecticut River Valley. And then of course, we can't not talk about Mary Anning, the original working-class girl boss of paleontology. She had zero formal education, and yet her fossil finds and ideas completely rewrote our understanding of life on Earth. Honestly, she was out there serving science while Victorian men were bending over backwards and fainting over table legs. I've spent entire summers in her hometown, Lyme Regis, UK, digging up the very same fossils that she was digging up during her heyday, living in what is now known as the Jurassic Coast in England. Basically, I walked where the Queen of Deep Time strutted. Unrelated, if you ever visit a little village along the Jurassic Coast called Piddle-Trentide, or even Piddle-Trenton, they're right next to each other, don't go to the local pub and ask which piddle-diddle you're in, because they're going to get pretty upset with you. And I know this from experience. There are entire fossil hunting communities packed with amateur enthusiasts who regularly make legit contributions to science. We're talking about groups, some of which I am a part of, such as the North Berkshire Mineral Club, or the Mid-America Paleontology Society, and the New York Paleontological Society. Basically, squads of rock nerds out there doing more for science than some people do with a PhD and a podcast. And you can actually join some of these groups. If you or a loved one want to find fossils yourselves, I'll leave the link to those down below, as well as a few others that I'm aware of.
But you think the incentive structure there is to move away from God?
Well, they want you to believe that God isn't real, that like the theory of evolution, like you're an ape. What happened was just over time, like you used to be a little chimpanzee, but then with time, this is why you learned about the theory of evolution, Homo sapien, Australopithecus, but then we were Homo erectus, and now you're a human being.
Isn't that the definition of Satanism?
Yeah.
Like to believe that like Earth is the kingdom?
Yes, and that is what these people were pushing. And so once you start to realize that Satanism is real, that these people who created everything that we view in Western society to be real believed in Satan, right? They know God's real, and yet they're convincing everyone that God isn't. And so when you speak to people that are super rational out of school, you're like, well, the evolutionary theory makes sense. So it makes sense to you that you started as a chimpanzee. Like,
yeah, because nothing screams Lucifer's handiwork like a fossilized ammonite. I think Candace really believes that we're like out there in black robes chanting Hail Darwin over beakers of monkey blood while drawing pentagrams on our lab coats. When in reality, we're wearing khaki shorts and eating lukewarm sandwiches out in the Gobi desert, with the occasional argument about sedimentary layers, and which 90s anime reigns supreme. Also, like, believing that Earth is the kingdom isn't Satanism, that's just geography. And let's be real, if Satan really did cook up evolution just to deceive us, he sure put a lot of work burying millions of fossils into neat geological layers, so thank you, Satan. That is a level of commitment that I absolutely have to respect. Meanwhile, the idea that everyone who built Western society, the society that she benefits from, worshipped Satan, sounds less like history and more like self-published Christian fanfiction. She's known for those, I guess. But yeah, sure, Candace, tell me more about how evolution is black magic while tweeting this nonsense on a phone powered by satellite technology and quantum physics. And as for, like, the whole fact that we were, like, chimpanzees once or whatever, no, Candace, evolution does not say we used to be chimpanzees. That's like saying you used to be your own cousin. Though, given some of the hot takes you've had, maybe that hits a little too close to home. Humans and chimps share a common ancestor that lived between 6 to 8 million years ago. We're relatives and not direct descendants. So no, Karen, your great-great-great-grandpa wasn't flinging poop in the trees. I mean, no judgment here if he was, though. Nothing would surprise me in 2025. We are part of the great ape family. And yes, our DNA is 98.8% identical to that of chimpanzees. But that last 1.2% makes all the difference, especially when it comes to paying taxes and ruining the planet. And evolution isn't some straight single-file line marching from monkey to man. It's a tree with branching limbs that represents different species. We, Homo sapiens, are just one twig on a much bigger branch of hominins. There were others like Neanderthals, Denisovians, Homo floresiensis, and more. But we're the only ones left. Why? Well, probably because Homo sapiens are really bad at sharing. Early Homo sapiens likely outcompeted, outbred, or plain old just wiped out the rest. Basically, we are the messy roommate of human evolution, and we couldn't live peacefully with our other roommates. And we still can't. It's called tribalism. It's like a pesky little thing we just can't evolve out of. So no, you didn't used to be an ape. You are an ape. With Wi-Fi.
I'm gnawing at the iron bars of my enclosure. Let me I need
That's a faith, buddy. It makes sense to you. And if you say to them, like, of course you went to the moon, then you start talking about basic science, but they don't actually know. They can't talk to you about Van Allen belt. They don't know anything. It's a faith. They have asserted, and what's interesting, even that, going to the moon, the Bible talks about a firmament. And if the firmament in the Bible, if you look at that, you would go, okay, well, it says that as below, so above, and this is how God created it. So if the Bible is real, which I know in my heart to be true, there's no way we got past this firmament. But it's interesting because, once you start to realize that all of it is about countering everything that is in the Bible, right? You have a creator. No. Evolutionary theory is real, actually.
We've been over this before, Candace. The firmament is a poetic, pre-scientific idea of the sky as a solid dome. Lots of ancient cultures had versions of it. It's not some literal barrier. NASA nor Katy Perry had to punch through a cosmic snow globe to get to outer space. They just had to follow the love light.
Following the love light.
The Van Allen belts are actually regions of charged particles, not a wall. This isn't the Emperor Hadrian trying to get into Scotland. Apollo astronaut flew through the lowest radiation regions, quickly and safely. That's documented physics, not fan fiction. But honestly, there's more information on that in my last video about Candace Owens, in which she said space is fake and gay. Also, Candace Owens, are you like 12? Stop trying to make fake and gay happen, because it is never going to happen.
You can't sit with us! Meteor hit, and I don't know, like the meteor hit and wiped out the dinosaurs, but then like the lizards came. I don't even really, when you get down to even just thinking about that, you're like, okay, so it wiped out the dinosaurs. Then what happened? They're like, well, then the amoeba was around, but then like little lizards are from that. I actually don't have a lot of questions. I wish I was in 6th grade again, because they tell us all this stuff. Like dinosaurs are like when you're in 2nd grade, and guys are like, yeah. Guys are the hardest about the dinosaurs. They are dinosaur stands.
I love dinosaurs growing up.
I know. Boys love it. It's like a culture. So when I said this on my show, I was like, dinosaurs are fake and gay. producer, all the boys were like, no, you've taken it too far. I will quit this show. It was really funny. I was like, oh, it's so sweet. You guys love your dinosaur still. And my son loves his dinosaur. But it is interesting that like they kind of drop it after second grade. Like they take you to the Natural History Museum and then there's no more talk about dinosaurs like later on in school. And they understand that children's minds are malleable. But when you get older, you might ask some questions. Like I would have a lot of questions now if I was sitting in second grade and they were like, and a great big meteor hit and then all the dinosaurs went away. I would be like, oh, okay, but then what happened?
You know what? I also know a lot of little girls who also love dinosaurs, so I don't know, maybe try shutting the fuck up and speak for your self. And also, the Cretaceous Paleogene extinction event that was 66 million years ago was basically Earth hitting the reset button. About 75% of species got wiped out, including all non-avian dinosaurs. And what were the ones that pulled through that? Well, small, scrappy mammals, birds, and yes, birds are dinosaurs, including that cockatoo currently pooping all over your couch. Honestly, no hate, like, that thing is so cute. Also insects and resilient reptiles and amphibians. And also fish, obviously, sharks too. Over millions of years, these survivors diversified and filled the gaps left behind. Also, amoebas were a thing long before the dinosaurs, you stupid bitch. Like, what the come on. I refuse to believe that you're really that stupid, you just know who your audience is. Life bounced back harder than my bottom roommate back in college. That's what evolution does. It adapts, it innovates, and it thrives, and it honestly loves bouncing on that dick. You know, Candace, we really don't need to invent mysteries here. The fossil record already reads like the ultimate comeback story. And as for the fact that they stopped teaching dinosaurs after the second grade, like, what? They don't, you just stop paying attention. Paleontology is part of the earth science curricula, and entire college degrees exist around it. But sure, yeah, I don't know, go off about how your second grade field trip was like the apex of scientific education. There are people right now earning PhDs studying dinosaur skin impressions and nesting behavior. You can even watch fossil prep live streams online. I've done them myself a few times back when I was active on Twitch, but going live just isn't for me.
Do you think that's the higher-ups' attempt to maybe get us used to the idea of a mass extinction event?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that. And it very much empowers the fear that people have in like climate change and, well, this could happen again, or if we don't get this right. And ultimately, what are they doing? Drawing you more towards the idea that a creator is not real, but ultimate governance is real. So you have to make sacrifices. Don't think about God being real. If you want to stay alive, what are you going to sacrifice to government? Okay, well, you can't use oil. I mean, you can't use gasoline and petrol. You're going to have to drive electric cars, you know? Well, we've got to reduce the temperature by this and by that. And you see that is a religion. And these people will call themselves atheists. And I'm like, you guys have a deeper faith than anything I've ever known. These people, when the government says mask up, save lives, let your parents die alone, they listen. They listen and they laugh at.
Here we go. Conspiracy theorist bingo. Dinosaurs are fake, evolution is satanic, and climate change is just big atheists trying to sell you a Prius. Honestly, it is like so exhausting. Climate change isn't a religion, nor is it a cult, or some Illuminati psyop cooked up by lizard people at NASA. It's the measurable, well-documented rise in Earth's average temperature driven by carbon dioxide, methane, and other greenhouse gases that we've been happily belching into the atmosphere like a species that thinks long-term planning is a hoax. And no, it's not a theory, it's a gay theory! Does anybody else miss MatPat? No? Okay, I mean, I do. Anyway, ice core samples show that CO2 levels and temperature trends going back hundreds of thousands of years. Glaciers and polar ice caps are melting like cheap candles in a sauna. You know what? On top of that, sea levels are rising, bitch, and coral reefs are bleaching out like the last frosted tips of 2002. And ecosystems worldwide are getting wrecked harder than my college roommate after coming back from doing finals. Bouncing on that dick. Meanwhile, 99% of climate scientists, you know, like the people who actually study this for a living, agree that it's real and that it is we humans who are driving it. We have to take responsibility for it. You know, like, I thought they were the party of, like, personal accountability, and yet they don't want to take any accountability for what we do to our planet. So maybe, like, take 5 minutes to actually try to learn about it before you start Facebook posting that Al Gore is trying to steal your gas stove. Keep pretending that it's fake and gay while the ocean tries to reclaim Miami faster than the Golden Girls did. Claiming that science is a cult doesn't make your idling Ford F-150 any less of a rolling smoke machine. And, spoiler, you can both believe in God and not want to roast the planet like a rotisserie chicken. You know, like, the home that he gave you to take care of, and you're doing a terrible job at it. I bet you were also the same kind of kid that argued with your mother about cleaning your room, because apparently keeping your room clean is a conspiracy too. Also, wearing a mask during a worldwide pandemic isn't atheist religious devotion. Like, what the It's called public health. Letting your parents die with dignity and safety is compassion, not conspiracy. As is, you know, like keeping the people around you safe, especially the immunocompromised. Isn't that something Jesus would have done? Come on, get with the program, Candace. I thought you were a Christian. People listen to scientists because, scientists study things, not because Dr. Fauci is the Pope of fossil atheism. I mean, like, Candace and other Republicans were out there making a pandemic into a clandemic, I don't know. They should definitely make a horror movie called Clandemic. Would anybody watch that? I know I would. So, I don't know, let's, like, wrap this up nice and tidy, you know, since Candace won't clean up after herself. Dinosaurs are real, proof literally right here. Evolution is real. Peace. Science is not Satanism, and even if it were, I would praise Satan. And if you think fossils are too gay for your kids, maybe the fossils aren't the problem, it's your bitch-ass mind. So if you made it this far, I would love for you to drop a bunch of rainbow and dinosaur emojis down into the comments section to let me know that you watched all the way to the end. If you'd like, you should definitely consider supporting me on Ko-Fi, where you can unlock bonus paleontological content, or content just like this, as well as, like, some behind-the-scenes photos of me actually out in the wild collecting fossils. That, you know, that would be pretty cool. You can either become a member, do a one-time donation. Any little bit helps, and I greatly appreciate it. I also have, like, a little fossil shop on Ko-Fi, too, so that would be kind of cool if you were to buy your own fossil that I collected out in the wild. Yeah, I mean, no pressure, but, you know, feel free. And if you're sick of misinformation and want to literally dig the truth, well, check out the Mid-America Paleontological Society, the New York Paleontological Society, or the North Berkshire Mineral Club, and I'm gonna link all of those down below, as well as a few others that I'm aware of. And if you're a queer like me, no need to worry. You will be totally safe and welcome in these groups. They may not be specifically LGBTQ spaces, but they are full of kind, open-minded people who care way more about rocks than they do what you do in your own bedroom. You don't need a PhD to find fossils. You don't even need a PhD to identify them.
Please give me the brain that you promised me, Great Oz.
You learn something new every day. A baby has brains, but he doesn't know much. Experience is the only thing that brings knowledge, and you've got that from just living. The longer you are on Earth, the more experience you are sure to get. Do you understand what I'm telling you?
Yes, I do, most certainly.
You just need curiosity, a rock hammer, and enough critical thinking to avoid getting all your science from a YouTube grifter who thinks a T-Rex was planted by the deep state. So grab your boots and join us on the fossil beds. Daddy will be waiting for you.